7th, 2020 Plan Board meeting to order. If staff could please call the roll.
Bob Ackerman.
Here.
Megan Walker-Radke.
Here.
Erin Condon.
Here.
Stephanie Sutton.
You're muted, Stephanie.
Here.
Thank you. Christian Newman.
Here.
Thomas Hawkins.
Here.
And James Blythe.
Here.
Got it.
All right, so that's the roll call.
I think Aaron's frozen.
Okay, yeah, for me too. I wasn't sure if it was just my computer.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Should we give her a second?
And then assume control.
Yeah. I'm opening up the agenda as we speak.
Looks like she might be reconnecting. She just left.
All right. Well, I think, are you guys okay if we go ahead and approve
Yes.
the agenda? Because it may take her a second to come back.
Yeah,
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move adoption of the agenda as presented.
Okay, any
Second.
Great. Can we do a roll call? Staff, have you, sorry, I haven't been paying close enough attention. Has staff been calling those, or has Erin been going down the list?
Oh, no problem. Erin's been doing it, but I can also do it if you don't have the list handy.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okie dokie. All right. Ackerman.
Here. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong thing.
Oh, no worries. Yep, we're just voting on the agenda approval. So we got Ackerman, Walker-Radke.
Aye.
Condon is gone for a moment. Sutton.
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
Hawkins.
Yes.
And Blythe.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we have an agenda for the evening. Next is approval of the minutes. Are there any comments on the minutes, or can I get a motion to approve?
I move we accept the minutes as presented, please.
Okay. and
Second.
staff, actually, I just noticed there's two. There's June and July. Do we need separate motions for those, or can we do them together?
Yeah, if you remember last month, we had the wrong attachment for the June minutes. So you all had made a motion to just approve at this meeting. I think you could probably do either or.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt both months' minutes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we'll take Christian as the second. And then staff, would you mind doing a roll call vote?
Sure. Hold up again here. Ackerman.
Aye.
Walker-Radke.
Aye.
Sutton.
Aye.
Newman.
Aye.
Hawkins.
Aye.
And Blythe.
Aye.
Okay, and I see Ms. Condon is back. Welcome back, Erin. We took care of approval of the agenda and approval of the minutes. So I think next is for staff to read the announcement, and then we'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Vice Chair.
All right. Section 30-3.3 of the Land Development Code establishes the Plan Board, including its membership, rules of procedure, and functions, powers, and duties. The Plan Board is advisory to the City Commission on most planning petitions. Appeals of Plan Board decisions concerning special use permits are to a hearing officer within 30 calendar days of the decision. See Section 30-3.58C of the Land Development Code. The procedure for an appeal is set forth in Section 30-3.58.
Seeing that we have no old business on the agenda, I'll move to new business. If staff could please read our first item into the record. Petition
PB 20-00055 TCH EDA agent request to amend Section 30-2.1 definitions and Section 30-4.17 dimensional standards of the City of Gainesville's Land Development Code to revise the definition of attached dwelling, add a definition for two-family dwelling, and amend the dimensional standards table in RMF 6, RMF 7, and RMF 8 zoning districts.
Okay, is staff ready to make a presentation on this item?
Yes.
I believe Board Member Sutton has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I need to open that screen. Go ahead, Ms. Sutton.
That's okay. I was just going to announce I've submitted a Form 8B on this item as well as the other two items on the agenda, so I'll be recusing myself from voting this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. All right, Mr. Chan, please go ahead.
Awesome.
Welcome to the Plan Board.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did, Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me, I did want to give a brief introduction to Nathaniel, or to Nate, as we call him. He's our newest planner. He's been a wonderful addition to the department. He did actually manage to come to one of your in-person Plan Board meetings way back in February. But I think the meeting went until like 11 o'clock. And so I didn't have a chance to introduce him in person, but welcome, Nate. And I know everybody will treat you with the softest of kid gloves tonight.
Actually, even better.
Thank you, Mr. Persons.
Well, thank you. Good evening, City Plan Board. For the record, my name is Nathaniel Chan. I'm a planner for the City of Gainesville Department of Sustainable Development. This is the first of three petitions you'll be hearing from me tonight, and this is petition PB-20-55 TCH two-family dwelling text amendment. So this petition is privately initiated by EDA. This text amendment adds provisions to regulate vertically configured two-family dwellings, including definitions and dimensional standards. Currently, the Land Development Code allows two-family dwellings as multifamily small scale in RC and RMF5 to RMF8 residential zoning districts. However, there is no definition of two-family dwelling in the LDC. The applicant is interested in the construction of vertically configured two-family dwellings, also known as duplexes. The current lot width standards in the LDC only recognize the ranch-style two-family dwelling, where dwellings are side by side. Vertically configured two-family dwellings are more land efficient and have the appearance of single-family dwellings. They can also be placed on narrower lots to promote a more urban setting. Here are some example images of vertically configured two-family dwellings. So for the proposed text amendment, it encompasses three changes to our Land Development Code. One is a revised definition of attached dwelling. Two, an addition of a definition for two-family dwelling. And three, amending the dimensional standards table to allow for the construction of vertical two-family dwellings in RMF 6, RMF 7, and RMF 8 zoning districts. Let's take a closer look at the proposed text amendments. So one is the revised definition of attached dwelling in Article 2, Section 30-2.1 definitions. So the red strike through indicates it was removed, and the blue underline indicates an inclusion. So the whole definition reads, attached dwelling means two or more dwelling units that are attached. This term includes, but is not limited to, two-family, three-family, and four-family dwellings, townhouses and row houses, and dwelling units that may be on one combined lot or individual lots. The second change is adding a definition of two-family dwelling in Article 2, Section 30-2.1 definitions. So currently, the Land Development Code does not specify a definition for a two-family dwelling, despite being referenced and used throughout the code. Two-family dwelling means a building containing two dwelling units. Two-family dwelling units may be configured horizontally or vertically. Two-family dwellings are considered multiple family dwellings, and the definition excludes accessory dwelling units as defined in the Land Development Code. So for the third code amendment, we're amending the two-family dimensional standards in RMF6, RMF7, and RMF8 zoning districts. This is in Article 4, Section 30-4.17 dimensional standards, specifically Table V5. The proposed amendment to Table V5 includes allowing a 40-foot minimum lot width for vertically configured two-family dwellings. The vertical configuration has the appearance of a two-story single-family dwelling and thus can utilize the same lot width standards as a single-family dwelling. Additionally, there will be reduced side, street, and side interior setbacks for vertical two-family dwellings. And lastly, there are provisions in the legend that state that these changes only apply to vertically configured two-family dwellings. With that being said, staff recommends approval of petition PB-20-55 TCH two-family dwellings text amendment. This petition is consistent with the existing definitions in the Land Development Code and is consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the comprehensive plan. As part of this petition, staff assessed the potential impacts of the petition on developments in RMF6, RMF7, and RMF8 zoning districts. Staff concluded that this petition will not impact the RMF6 to 8 zoning districts. RMF6 to 8 is a multifamily district, and since two-family dwellings are a type of multifamily development, it would not impact scale or use. Additionally, staff assessed other jurisdictions' regulation of two-family dwellings, both in-state and nationwide. Overall, the proposed text amendments are consistent with other jurisdictions. More detailed information regarding staff assessment is provided in the staff report. And thank you. I am here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Do I have any questions from the board for staff? All right, seeing none, does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair.
Okay, please proceed, Ms. Lazari.
Okay, Madam Chair, let me put video on. Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen with you. We have a brief presentation. Madam Chair, can you tell me if our presentation is up?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And I'm going to apologize in advance. My computer has been going in and out of this meeting, so if I seem to abandon you, it is not on purpose. It is because there's a bad storm, I think, around my house, so I apologize in advance. This is petition PB-20-55 TCH, which, as Mr. Chan indicated, is a proposal to change the text related to the RMF 6, 7, and 8 zoning districts. And he did an excellent job of presenting the information about the text changes. We're revising the definition of attached dwelling, adding a new definition of two-family dwelling, and making text changes to the RMF 6, 7, 8 zoning districts to facilitate and incentivize vertical two-family dwellings. These are known in some areas as stacked duplexes. Vertical two-family dwellings are an innovative and land-efficient building type. We have noted that they are out west in Oregon and Washington State, and also in northwestern Canada. So we think this is an innovative type of dwelling that we can bring to Gainesville. If you happen to read our justification report that was associated with this text change, you'll know that we've done quite a bit of research on this, both from the ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute, and a website called The Missing Middle. And the missing middle housing types are typically small to medium-sized footprint type dwellings with a body width, depth, and height no larger than a detached single-family home. This allows a range of missing middle types with varying densities but compatible forms to be blended into a neighborhood, encouraging a mix of socioeconomic households and making these types a good tool for compatible infill. What we've noted in other communities and in Gainesville is that oftentimes the land development code or the zoning code is standing in the way of these types of units. And the Missing Middle website indicates this by saying, most multifamily zones in conventional codes allow much bigger buildings, taller and wider, and also typically encourage lot aggregation and large suburban garden apartment buildings. The environments created by these zones are not what missing middle housing is intended for. And when we looked at Eugene, Oregon, who practices the missing middle housing type, they did their own research and discovered in practice, and I'm quoting from one of their documents, the city's planning priorities don't translate into enabling missing middle units. The timelines are too long and there are too few financial incentives to building these housing types, which in the end made projects difficult to complete. And so again, what we're here tonight bringing to you is something that will incentivize and facilitate, provide flexibility for this type of dwelling. This is the typical horizontal type duplex, which the current land development code is designed for. And Mr. Chan indicated some of our examples of these types of units. And this is an actual unit out in the Pacific Northwest. So the text change would not apply in any of the single family zoning districts or in the RMF 5 or RC zoning districts. This is strictly in the RMF 6, 7, and 8 districts. The current lot width standard for duplexes assumes that horizontal layout that you saw in one of our slides. We are proposing changes to the dimensional standards table to create an incentive and to create flexibility for this housing type. You already saw the proposed new definition for attached dwelling, and adding the new definition of two-family dwelling. We believe this was inadvertently left out of the Land Development Code update because there are definitions already in the code for 3-family and 4-family dwellings. There used to be in the pre-2017 Land Development Code definition. So this is just adding it back in. So the proposed changes are to reduce the lot width for vertical 2-family dwellings or stacked duplexes from 75 feet to 40 feet. This will allow for a more efficient use of urban land, and it will create an incentive for vertical construction in cases where there are existing narrow urban lots or where new lots are being created such that density can be allowed in those areas. The other proposal is to reduce the side setback requirements for vertical 2-family dwellings from 15 feet to 10 feet on a side street, and the side interior setback would go from 10 feet to 5 feet. And again, this allows for the narrower lots in the urban setting. This just shows, as Mr. Chan had indicated, what the changes look like in the code. This will allow for housing type diversity, new housing type choices for buyers, better use of land when you have narrow lots in the urban setting. Smaller lot sizes may reduce costs to help with affordability. And it allows for the option of home ownership on one level and rental of the other unit, or if you have family, letting the other unit be allocated to elderly parents or returning children from college, that type of thing. And again, there's no impact on the single family or RMF 5 or RC areas. This is consistent with our comprehensive plan. It creates a new housing type choice for buyers, which is future land use element goal 1. It adds the potential for diversity of housing types, which is related to future land use element policy 1.1.3. And it is related to the overall goal in the housing element, which encourages a sufficient and diverse supply of housing. And housing element objective 1.2 talks about affordability, and these vertical duplex dwellings can reduce land costs, and they can provide an opportunity for supplemental income when you have a live-rent situation. In summary, we've added amended the definition of attached dwelling, added a new definition of two-family dwelling, and amended the dimensional standards in table V-5. The staff has recommended approval, and we are requesting approval of the petition. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. Do any members of the board have questions for Ms. Lazari? All right, I'm not seeing any raised hands. Stephanie, do we have anyone on the line for public comment? Oh, never mind. Hold on. Thomas, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question for staff. So I'm happy to do that now or after public comment, whichever your preference.
Why don't we just go ahead?
Well, I'll first give general comments on the petition. I think this is a positive thing. I know in the RC category also, the minimum lot size for duplexes is double that of single family houses, which kind of defeats the purpose, right? You're not getting that much more variety or increased density in the neighborhood if the lot has to be twice as large. So I think it's a positive change that I support. I have a question though, which is the code used to have a requirement that in what we normally consider our residential neighborhoods, our residential zoning districts. I mean, all of our zoning categories allow residential, but the ones that are more focused on that kind of single family subdivision, there was a standard that you got 1 unit per lot. So once you subdivided, you kind of got 1 unit per lot. And a few years ago, we had a property owner in Pleasant Street propose duplexes for some property that person owned. It wasn't a single lot. They didn't have a lot that met the minimum width for a duplex. They had a lot that was less wide, and then they kind of picked up the side yard from their neighbor. They bought some side yard from the neighboring property. And based on that, they had sufficient width. And then instead of proposing a single duplex, they proposed a small apartment complex of duplexes. And one of the reasons that when staff analyzed it, they didn't see a code violation was because we no longer had the provision that you get 1 principal use per lot. And I talked to planning staff about this earlier this week. I was wondering if they were able to, Mr. Chan or Mr. Persons, if y'all were able to address that and looking at this petition to see how, 1, we can be more flexible in allowing duplexes, but 2, also make sure that our subdivision plats still have some reference to the urban design of a neighborhood where we have those plats. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Does staff have a response?
Yes, I can share my screen in just a second. So I was part of that meeting discussing the issues regarding having more than 1 principal use per lot. And yesterday we put together something that might represent that. However, this is part of table V4, in the permitted uses in residential districts, Article 4, Section 30-4.16, permitted uses. So as you can see, I can use my laser pointer. At the top right, I've added a superscript of 2 and a footnote that says each parcel shall be limited to one principal use and any additional accessory uses. Does that kind of answer your question, Member Hawkins?
That absolutely does. Thank you, Mr. Chan.
No problem. I guess I'll leave this up if you want to talk about it more.
Thank you, Mr. Chan.
I'll just say, Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion, but I want to defer until you're done soliciting comments. So.
Okay, we need to wait for public comment.
I'll yield the floor, yeah.
Do we have any other questions or comments from the board before we open up for public comment? All right, seeing none. Stephanie, do we have anyone on the line?
Hi, Madam Chair. Yes, we do. Give us just a moment and we will patch them in.
Okay.
All right, I believe we have Mark Goldstein on the line. Mark, if you can hear us, you may go ahead.
I'm not hearing anything.
Mute.
Hi, Mark.
Mute.
Mark,
off.
are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, now we can hear.
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Goldstein, please go ahead.
Am I speaking?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My first question is, could you provide a map for the public as to where the districts are with your pointer and answer this question so I might respond? Is the Porter's neighborhood in the areas that will be affected by this zoning change?
Does staff have an answer for Mr. Goldstein? Is Porter's affected, and do we have a map that shows the affected districts?
Hi. For the record, my name is Nathaniel Chan. This is, let me pull up the pointer again. This is the map of the affected zoning districts regarding the dimensional standards for RMF6, RMF7, and RMF8. I don't believe Porter's is part of that. This is the University of Florida, and I don't see Porter's being highlighted as part of the.
Are you presenting this are you presenting this publicly or just to me? Okay, there you go. All right, it's a delay. I got it. Okay, so could you identify Porter's on the map and tell us the zoning here?
It is around here somewhere, I believe.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this does not include Porter's. Porter's is zone RMF5, and I think as you heard from the presentation by staff,
You've been muted.
applicant.
To unmute yourself, press the star key twice. My second question is, who is the company? You've been muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice. Mute off. We usually disclose that when we have a discussion for zoning change requested by a private agent.
Mr. Goldstein, we had some noise interference there. Am I correct that your question is who initiated this petition?
Yes, the company and the individuals, yeah, public information.
It's on the agenda. The petition was initiated by Eng, Denman and Associates.
And Denman and Associates, okay. So thank you for
Yes.
that information, I appreciate it.
If you have access to the agenda, which is posted, you can see who initiated the agenda, and you can also download all the supporting documents that show where it came from.
Thank you for that. Working with these phones, cell phones and things and trying to communicate is a little difficult for most citizens. Doing my best. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, Mr. Goldstein. Do we have any other members of the public on the line for public comment?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. There is one caller we didn't get a chance to screen. Caller ending in 5933. If you're calling about the current agenda item, you may go ahead and share your comments.
Yes, my comment was I saw front easement setbacks and side easement setbacks, but what's the rear easement setbacks?
Sir, could we please have your name for the record?
Chuck Clark.
Thank you. Does staff have an answer for Mr. Clark on rear setbacks?
10 feet.
Does that answer your question?
Was that 10 feet?
10 feet.
If they said 10 feet, yes.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, it did.
if I may indicate, there were no changes proposed to what currently exists for the rear setbacks.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. That's good clarification. Mr. Clark, is that your only question?
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other members of the public on the line?
No, Madam Chair, not at this time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Seeing that we have no more people from the public waiting to comment, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and or a motion.
Madam Chair, can you hear me? Am I muted?
No, go ahead, Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you. I don't know where my Zoom controls are, so I can't, who knows? I move approval of petition PB-20-00055 with the modifications that Mr. Chan showed us to the additional table, articulating that one principal use is allowed on platted lots in the shown zoning categories.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Ms. Walker-Radke. Any discussion on the motions? All right, seeing no hands, I'm going to take a roll. Ms. Sutton. Oh, you're exempt. Mr. Ackerman.
Aye.
Ms. Walker-Radke.
Aye.
Mr. Newman.
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins.
Aye.
Mr. Blythe.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye, so passes unanimously. If staff could please read the next item into the agenda.
Petition PB-20-00067 LUC EDA agent for David Duncan, owner, requests to amend the future land use map from City of Gainesville RL residential low up to 15 units per acre to City of Gainesville RM residential medium 8 to 30 units per acre, located at 6224 Southwest 20th Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. McMullen. Is staff ready to make a presentation on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Chan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And
I can't hear anything. Have you started talking yet? Have we lost Mr. Chan?
He seems frozen.
Okay. I think he's presenting all the items, so I guess we need to wait for him to come back.
I'm going to text him now.
Madam Chair, if I may, for a moment, I'm sorry, Mr. Chan is back. I apologize.
Hi, sorry about that. Do you know where I stopped? Was it just the beginning? I can start over if you want.
We didn't hear anything. We just saw
Oh,
you share
no.
your screen and then radio silence.
Okay, yeah, I was like, can you guys see my screen? And then I didn't hear anything. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll start. All right, let me try that again. Sorry about that. How's that?
That's good.
Awesome.
So far,
Thank you.
so good.
Cool. All right, so for the record, my name is Nathaniel Chan. I'm a planner for the City of Gainesville Department of Sustainable Development. This is petition PB-20-67 LUC, a small-scale land use amendment for the property located at 6224 Southwest 20th Avenue. So this petition is privately initiated by Dave Duncan and EDA. The subject property is located again at 6224 Southwest 20th Avenue and is currently vacant. The current future land use designation is residential low, RL, and the current zoning is RMF5. The property is approximately 8.33 acres. The subject property was annexed into the city in November 2017, and in 2018 it was given RL land use and RMF5 zoning, the designations that exist today. This land use change petition proposes residential medium RM future land use, which is 8 to 30 units per acre. The surrounding properties are mainly multifamily residential developments, save for the single family residential zoning to the south, which is vacant. And so to the north and east of the subject property, the future land use designation is Alachua County High Density Residential, which is 14 to 24 dwelling units per acre. And that is the Sugarfoot Oaks development. To the direct south of the property is Southwest 20th Avenue, but to the south of that is vacant City of Gainesville single family residential, which is up to 8 dwelling units per acre. And to the direct west of the subject property, it is the future land use designation is City of Gainesville residential medium, 8 to 30 dwelling units per acre, which is what is proposed for the subject property. And with that being said, staff recommends approval of petition PB-20-67 LUC. The proposal meets the review criteria for land use change outlined in section 30-3.13 of the Land Development Code. The proposed future land use category is consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the comprehensive plan. A small portion of the site falls within a FEMA flood hazard zone, Zone A. The proposed activities have been reviewed by the environmental coordinator for considerations relating to environmental resources. Regarding criteria 8, the need for additional acreage in the proposed future land use category, there are approximately 1,872 acres of land within the city that have residential medium land use, and only 121 acres, or 6.4% of that, is vacant. The small percentage of vacant land within the RM future land use category shows the need for additional acreage. More details on the petition meeting the review criteria can be found in the staff report. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions from the board for staff? Ms. Walker-Radke.
Thank you very much. My question is with regards to the FEMA flood zone. This is the first petition for the plan board that I've seen where that was mentioned, and I was just wondering what, if any, implications does that have for development on the affected portion of that property?
Mr. Chan or Mr. Persons?
Madam Chair, can you hear us?
Yes.
I can give Mr. Chan a chance to answer, or I can take this one.
I can share my screen and show the flood hazard zone if that's helpful.
Yes, please.
That's good. Generally speaking, for land use and zoning, it's not like the flood zone is not something that is looked at in that level of detail. But in terms of future development, any development within the flood zone would have to provide compensating storage. So essentially, if they're filling in parts of the flood zone, they have to provide the same compensating storage elsewhere on the site. Otherwise,
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Persons. Do we have any other board member questions for staff? Seeing none, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have a presentation and I will try to be brief because I think Mr. Chan did an excellent job.
All right, please go ahead, Ms. Lazari.
Madam Chair, can you confirm that you can see the presentation?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Thank you very much. As Mr. Chan pointed out, this is a small-scale land use map amendment. The petition is PB 20-67 LUC. He indicated the location of the property. It is west of I-75 and north of Southwest 20th Avenue. And he covered the density increases, and this is related to a petition to rezone for consistency to the RMF8 zoning district. He covered this information very well, so I won't dwell on that. As you can see, this property is immediately east of currently land use property with the residential medium, and then the high density residential category in the county. This is what's proposed, that this would be residential medium. The uses, just very briefly, are single family or medium intensity multifamily dwellings, places of religious assembly, schools, libraries, home occupations, and assisted living facilities. Mr. Chan indicated that there was an environmental review by the city environmental planner, and there is only that small area of FEMA flood zone A on the southwest border of this site. The soils are suitable, no wetlands, no strategic ecosystem or regulated natural or archaeological resources. The criteria, as Mr. Chan mentioned, is there are 11 criteria for proposed change to the future land use map. And very briefly, we are consistent with the comprehensive plan. I would point out that this is infill development. I'm going to back up on the map just for a minute and indicate to you that the development, this property is developed immediately to the west, and you can see this development here. Those properties have been developed since 1976 through 1984. So this is definitely an infill type of site. Compatibility and surrounding land uses, we've discussed that there's multifamily surrounding north, south, north, west, and east of the site. We discussed the environmental issues. The comprehensive plan has support for infill and or redevelopment, and this is definitely an infill development. And the urban services available to serve the site include centralized potable water and wastewater. There are 2 transit routes that serves this, both 75 and 76. There are existing bike lanes and existing public roads. The residential medium will allow for a higher density and a variety of housing types, which can have a positive impact on affordable housing. More units on the site may reduce the land costs to help with affordability. In terms of the transportation system, this is in Zone D of the Transportation Mobility Program area. It will require an agreement to meet criteria associated with Zone D. And it's located in the UF context area, which means that there will be funding of transit capital costs per transportation mobility element policy 10.1.14. We've talked about the existing availability of public services and facilities. The staff indicated that there is a need for additional acreage in this land use category. There's only about 6.8% of that that's vacant currently. Discouragement of urban sprawl. This is an infill parcel, and it will promote the efficient provision of public infrastructure. Need for job creation, capital investment, and economic development. It will create construction jobs. The development on the site will increase the city's tax base, will provide residential support for existing commercial and employment centers near the site, and those include nearby the Oaks Mall, Celebration Point, Butler Plaza, and the University of Florida. And higher density will increase the development potential of the site. There is an additional criteria for proposed future land use map changes, and that is the need to modify land use categories and development patterns within antiquated subdivisions. This is not applicable there. This is not an antiquated subdivision. You've noted that the staff has recommended approval, and the applicant is asking for approval of PB 20-67 LUC. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. Do we have any questions for the applicant from the board? Seeing none. Stephanie, do we have anybody on the line for public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one person waiting on the line.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chuck Clark again. Mr. Clark, if you can hear us, you may go ahead.
Yes, to increase the density to that much, how many stories are the places are they allowed to be?
Could staff please answer Mr. Clark's question about the allowed height per unit?
It's the same. It's going to be 3 feet. I'm sorry, 3 stories.
Okay. Mr. Clark, does that answer your question?
3 stories?
Yes, 3 stories.
It does, but 3 stories is a little high. I mean, we're only 2 stories right next to it. Well, how can they change it to 3 stories?
The current zoning allows for 3 stories.
Well, when this was originally rezoned, we were glad to see it rezoned in the city, but it was the pictures that were shown on the rezoning were only 2-story buildings, and they were taken from our development on the east side of that property. And now you're talking 3-story buildings. It seems like quite a lot to squeeze in that little property.
Mr. Clark, just to clarify a little bit, much of the single family, if I'm correct, much of the residential zoning in the city of Gainesville allows for 3 stories. And you know that most of the city is not built up to 3 stories. So 3 is as high as a developer could go, but it doesn't mean that a developer will go that high. Just like your property that you're talking about is only 2 stories, your developer could have built 3 but chose not to. So just because something is allowed doesn't mean that that will happen. And even if we decline to approve this petition, a developer could go in and do smaller units or smaller single family unit, fewer single family units that could also be 3 stories. So that's not something that's really on the table to be changed at this time.
Well, what I'm referring to is the way it was presented when it was first changed, when it was first put into the city annexating the property. It was only shown as example was 2-story buildings, not 3-story buildings.
But again, the current zoning and land use do allow for 3-story buildings. So what you were shown was just an example, but it wasn't apparently the max. Even if we did nothing tonight, someone could go in and put a 3-story building there now.
Will this include the type of buffer that runs along the property line?
Yes, this doesn't affect the buffering.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you. Do you have any more questions?
No.
All right, thank you for calling in. We appreciate public comment. Do we have anybody else on the line for public comment?
No, Madam Chair, not for this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. Bringing it back to the board, I'm ready for a motion or any discussion. Not everybody at once.
All right, I'll take this one. I move that we approve, let me make sure I'm reading the right one, petition PB-20-00067 LUC.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Newman. I'll go through and call the roll. Ms. Sutton has abstained from this. Mr. Ackerman.
Aye.
Ms. Walker-Radke.
Aye.
Mr. Newman.
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins.
Aye.
Mr. Blythe.
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Item passes unanimously. Could staff please read our next item into the record?
Petition PB-20-66 EDA agent for David Duncan, owner, request to rezone property from City of Gainesville RMF 5 residential single multifamily up to 12 dwelling units per acre to City of Gainesville RMF 8 residential multifamily 8 to 20 dwelling units per acre located at 6224 Southwest 20th Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. McMullen. Mr. Chan, are you ready?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
All right, please go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. And good to go. All right. So for the record, my name is Nathaniel Chan. I'm a planner for the City of Gainesville, Department of Sustainable Development. This is petition PB-20-66 ZON, a rezoning of the subject property on Southwest 20th Avenue. So this petition is privately initiated by Dave Duncan and EDA. The subject property is located at 6224 Southwest 20th Avenue and is currently vacant. The current zoning is residential single / multifamily RMF 5, and the current land use category is residential low density RL. The property is approximately 8.33 acres, and this petition is related to the last petition that we just heard, the land use change. And the subject property was annexed into the city in November 2017, and in 2018, it was given RL land use and RMF 5 zoning, the designations that exist today. This rezoning petition proposes residential multifamily RMF 8 zoning for 8 to 20 units per acre. And the surrounding properties are mainly multifamily residential developments. So to the north and east of the subject property, it is zoned Alachua County multifamily R2A, 8 to 14 dwelling units per acre. And to the direct south is Southwest 20th Avenue, but to the south of that is City of Gainesville RSF4, up to 8 dwelling units per acre. And to the west of the subject property is City of Gainesville RMF 8, multifamily residential, 8 to 20 dwelling units per acre. And that is what is being proposed for the subject property. And with that being said, staff recommends approval of petition PB-20-66 ZON. The proposal meets the review criteria for rezoning outlined in section 30-3.14 of the Land Development Code. The surrounding permitted uses and allowed intensity and density are compatible with the proposed zoning, with the surrounding properties being mainly multifamily residential. The most appropriate use of land on the subject property is multifamily residential to allow for a continuity of existing uses surrounding the site. Based on staff review, the proposed zoning also meets the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. More details on the petition meeting the review criteria can be found in the staff report. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you. I'm here for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Do we have any board member questions for staff? All right, seeing none, if the applicant would like to do their presentation, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to try to share my screen again. Madam Chair, is my screen shared?
Yes, it is. And we can.
Okay. Thank you very much. As Mr. Chan pointed out, this is the companion rezoning to the land use change that you just approved. This will implement that residential medium density land use. Again, the property is located west of I-75 and north of Southwest 20th Avenue. The maximum density increase is going from 12 units per acre to 20 units per acre by right. And it is related again to that land use change you just approved. I'm not going to dwell on the description here. This is the property again immediately to the east of existing RMF 8 property. And so when and if this is approved, it will be consistent with that RMF 8 to the west. The uses allowed in the RMF 8 zoning district are generally the same as those allowed in the RMF 5 zoning district. And those include things like multifamily dwellings, places of religious assembly, schools, libraries, parks, and assisted living facilities. And the differences are outlined in this chart where community residential homes are allowed in the RMF 6 to 8, but not in the RMF 5. Dormitory and emergency shelter uses, and then the skilled nursing and social service homes. These are allowed by special use permit and not by right in the RMF 8 zoning district. We've already talked about the environmental review, and we've discussed the consistency with the comprehensive plan that the RM land use category and the RMF 8 zoning category are compatible. This is consistent with future land use element objective 4.1 in terms of an appropriate location for medium density residential consistent with the surrounding properties. The proposed change will allow for a range of residential unit types, and it is in fact supportive of future land use element objective 1.5 concerning infill development that discourages urban sprawl. There are 10 criteria for the review of rezoning proposals, and Mr. Chan has indicated that the city staff has found that this proposal meets all of those criteria. So we'll just run through those very quickly here and just point out that it is compatible in terms of the surrounding properties and other similar properties. The property is currently vacant, so there is no conservation of the value of existing buildings at that site. In terms of applicable portions of any current city plans and programs, I will point out that the property is in Transportation Mobility Program Area Zone D. It will be required to meet those criteria when development occurs. It's in the UF context area and will have to meet transit capital cost requirements. And currently there are roadway improvements under construction in the area, including new sidewalks along Southwest 20th Avenue. We've talked about the need for lands in this type of zoning district. There's limited land, vacant land in this particular zoning district category, and it will provide housing opportunities in close proximity to several large employers and large developments. And there is a criteria about whether there have been substantial changes in the character or development of areas in or near an area under consideration. The property immediately abutting to the west was annexed in 2019 and designated RMF 8. There are roadway improvements and sidewalks under construction along the property frontage and surrounding area, including a new traffic signal. And there's ongoing new construction at the Tanglewood development, which is west of the property along Southwest 20th Avenue. Goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, we've already discussed how it's consistent with those. And facts, testimony, and reports presented at public hearings. We did, in fact, hold a neighborhood workshop on May 11th of this year, and it will be presented to the City Commission for public hearing, and tonight we are at the City Plan Board. And it is not in a transect zone, so this criteria is not applicable. The staff has recommended approval, and the applicant is requesting approval of PB 20-66 ZON. I am happy to answer any questions that the Plan Board may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. Do we have any questions from the board for Ms. Lazari? All right, seeing none. Stephanie, do we have anybody for public comment on this item?
No, Madam Chair, we have no callers for this item.
Okay, thank you. Since there's no public comment, I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and or motion.
Well, if there's no discussion, then I'll make a motion.
Nope, Mr. Newman got you.
All right.
I was, sorry, I was going to make a motion. So I was following the rules. I raised my hand. I move to approve petition PB-20-00066 ZON.
We have a motion.
I will second Mr. Newman's motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, I will take the roll. Ms. Sutton has abstained. Mr. Ackerman?
Aye.
Ms. Walker-Radke?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Hawkins?
Aye.
Mr. Blythe?
Aye.
And I'm also in support of this motion, so it passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Chan and Ms. Lazari, for your presentations tonight. Do we have any information items?
Madam Chair, if I may interrupt for a minute. I neglected to thank the city staff this evening before my presentations. They were extraordinarily helpful in discussing all these issues with us and providing us with input on the applications that we made. And I just want to make sure that they are thanked and appreciated for this one.
Thank you, Ms. Lazari. Ms. McMullen, do we have any information items for this evening?
Andrew, were you going to give an update on the comp plan process?
Well, I believe I will. We did get confirmation. I think as we've talked about before, the city's comprehensive plan consultant, HRNA, just started work on the comprehensive plan, and they've been doing some of the sort of preliminary stuff you might expect, reading documents, talking to people inside of the city, speaking with the city commission, and they'd like to come to your, virtually come, of course, to your September 24th meeting to come and have a discussion with the plan board about sort of your vision and for the comprehensive plan, and then to get some feedback and have some dialogue and be able to have you guys put faces to names and all that good stuff. So we'll schedule that for your September 24th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Persons. Any other information items?
Well, I did want to let you guys know last week at the City Commission meeting, they approved the accessory dwelling unit text change and the zero text change on first reading.
All right, thank you for that update, Ms. McMullen. Moving on to board member comments. Does anybody have a comment for this evening? Mr. Hawkins?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to talk something that I know I mentioned at some of our spring meetings, and then I replied all on some email correspondence with staff about it. So I know y'all probably are aware that it's on my mind, but that's how we prioritize items for our agendas. And specifically, it's great that we got the ADUs and the SIROs passed. I actually want to thank Brittany for sharing that. But those are like 2 items out of, I think, a little bit more than 30 that we have on the list that we developed in conjunction with the City Commission last June. And at the rate we're going, even if we were to pick up the pace a little bit, it's still like 2027 before we get through that list. And in looking at the agenda items that we covered tonight, 2 of them were legislative items. So we don't have a time clock on those, a shot clock, as Mr. Persons likes to call it from the state, like we do for our quasi-judicial items. And they're good, they're fine items. Obviously, we had a lot of consensus on them, but they're not necessarily more important than the things that we prioritized 14 months ago. I was looking at backup for the City Commission meeting on Monday, and this is just perspective of one commissioner, right? So this is not something direction from the board, but it was some items that Commissioner Johnson had put together of code changes that she wanted to see, that she was kind of, putting into play alongside talk of maybe, advocating, not maybe advocating for a moratorium. She is advocating for a moratorium. But a lot of the items on the list are things that are also on that list from last July. Looking at our heritage overlays, which is on that list from last July. Looking at land use and zoning changes in some of the historic neighborhoods like Porter's, which is on our list from last July. And I would like us to be in a position where, not that everything gets done immediately or fast, because that's not possible, right? Time is limited. But that with the time we have a prioritization that makes sense. So I'm interested in hearing from other members of the plan board what you think about this. My thinking is that a couple of different approaches would make sense. So one approach that makes sense would be if we took things in chronological order from when they were introduced. Right. So if the older something is, the sooner it gets heard. Another thing that might make sense is if we heard all City Commission priorities and then all plan board priorities and then any private sector application. Maybe there's a combination that makes sense, right? Maybe we sort of, kind of develop a matrix based on those 2 criteria. I'm not suggesting that we adopt rules. I ultimately trust planning staff to make these decisions, but I think I would like them to hear from us that we want some prioritization that at least has the public interest items heard in line with others, and not going behind other items that may be good, but that are motivated by single property owners rather than by the request of the City Commission. Bottom line, City Commission should be in charge of our legislative agenda, and I feel like right now they're not. They've been trying to set a legislative agenda for us, and we're not responding to them because we're limited by the order which, by petition, the staff is able to conduct research and prepare petitions for us. So those are my thoughts. Thanks, Madam Chair. I yield the floor, and I would love to hear other folks' opinions if you have one on the subject.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Does anybody else have a comment on this issue? Mr. Ackerman?
I recognize what Mr. Hawkins' issue is. I think traditionally, obviously, some of the priorities that we adopted back in July require quite a lot more effort and research, and that may take longer. So to some extent, the place things get in there is the time that is necessary in order to get these things prepared. I'm not very much in favor, and I suspect the City Commission will be quacking away if we basically stop doing private petitions in favor of things that are on our list. And I think Ms. Lazari seems to still be on the line, and she used to work us until midnight every meeting. And we could certainly do a lot more petitions than we have been doing since Ms. Lazari abandoned us and moved into her cushy life in private business. But anyway, I think it's possible for us to do all of those things, but I do not think I'm going to be very much supportive of shutting down private petitions. That obviously costs somebody a lot of money.
Madam Chair,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Ackerman on the shutting down question, and I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just suggesting that everything's taken its turn. So yes, I would agree. I wouldn't want to disallow folks from making those requests of us. Sorry for interrupting, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any other comments?
Yeah. Again, I'm not for shutting down, but I do. It seems it wouldn't be. It potentially would be a low-hanging fruit, at least that the potential sort of priority things that are being sort of looked at and worked on for us to maybe get periodic sort of updates and say hey, these things are coming, or this is what we're working on. I think would be helpful. And then also, again, where possible, again, I mean, I'm perfectly happy to have the meeting end earlier tonight, but I mean, if something, I mean, we like tonight's a meeting where we wouldn't be going late, and so we could do a little bit more work on it. So, I mean, I would like to see us being a little bit more proactive, but not at the expense of trying to, fundamentally do what's required of the board. So,
go ahead, Mr. Ackerman.
Madam Chair, one brief comment. Maybe now that young Mr. Chan is on board, he can do all of this stuff.
We were supposed to be nice to him tonight, Mr. Ackerman.
I am being nice.
Next month, we can give him all of the work.
Well, he's been there for a while, Mr. Persons told us. So
yeah,
just the first we've seen him.
I'm ready. He's ready. Let's get him going.
All right. I would just like to chime in that I agree with Mr. Newman, Mr. Ackerman, and Mr. Hawkins that 13 months with not that much motion on what we talked about last summer seems like a little bit too much, and I would like to see some more movement on those items. Does anybody have any other comments on this issue in particular? Ms. Walker-Radke.
I think actually Ms. Sutton had her hand up before me, so if you want to go first, I'll go afterwards.
Okay, Ms. Sutton, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to echo a lot of, what was said. I liked Mr. Newman's idea of, maybe we can schedule sort of a regular quarterly check-in, every 2 or 3 meetings. They come to us with that list. And I know Mr. Hawkins has been fighting hard to hold them accountable and has asked for that a couple times, but maybe we can make it a more regular part of the meetings. I'd like to get an update, at least quarterly, and then that way staff has pressure to show that they're making progress before they come back to us. I would like to give them a little bit of flexibility on that. There's a really long agenda, obviously they could push it to the next month to give us the update if that makes sense. But I think that's a great idea. The other thing is, people that are initiating private petitions, are paying the city to process those petitions. And, usually it's affiliated with, an upcoming development project that means, more tax revenue and everything else for the city. So I definitely think that it's important that if people are paying the city to do a service and process those text amendments, they need to try to stay on schedule as much as possible. So, I don't want to see the private petition stopped, but I do agree that we need to make progress on that list of priorities. And we did prioritize them, we sort of also looked at how long things would take. So I think keeping that front of mind and even getting updates on some of those longer term items, if we know that at least progress is being made in the background, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Ms. Walker-Radke.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess this is not seconding, this is third. The suggestion that we get regular updates just so that we know what's going on behind the scenes. In terms of actually scheduling in some of those items, though, I mean, like today, you know, it's 7:45. It's actually relatively early for us. But rather than stopping the privately initiated petitions, maybe we could, as part of our priorities, slot in time for those the priorities that we discussed at that joint meeting. So maybe we have 3 or 4 of the privately initiated petitions in the meeting, and then we block out time intentionally to either discuss something that's been fully developed, or if staff is looking for some feedback from us for something that's not, you know, fully baked, then we can provide that to them. But something that really just makes those items part of our priority as well on a regular basis. If it looks like it's something where we're going to have one of those midnight meetings, then as Ms. Sutton said, maybe, you know, we have the flexibility to say, okay, we're not going to go till 1 a.m. But for a meeting like today, or like a normal meeting, it would be nice to have regular updates and then have time blocked out to address those priorities. Because yes, the private petitions, we are being paid to do this, but ultimately we as a plan board and the city commission work for the citizens. And so I feel like the things that we discussed at that meeting are coming from the commission, who are elected. And so that is something that, you know, we're not being paid necessarily by each citizen of Gainesville, except for all of their tax money as well. So I feel like we need to be responsive to those issues. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Walker-Radke. And just to clarify, the plan board is not being paid. The city commission, or the city of Gainesville is being
Yes.
paid.
Yes.
So,
we do it for free because we love it.
Yes. Mr.
You're
Hawk.
not being paid?
What?
I was going to make the same comment that Member Walker-Radke made. The city just charged fees in order to cover its costs, the administrative burden of hearing things. But I don't think it makes somebody who, you know, pays in X dollars at the Thomas Center, shouldn't put them in front of the line than somebody who pays X dollars in their tax bill. Everybody should be heard. I think right now our prioritization could be shuffled. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Any more comments on this issue?
Can I interest the board in an update?
Yay!
So I did want to kind of go over a list of some of the items that we are proposing for the next plan board meeting on the 24th. We're looking at neighborhood notification, sidewalk, heritage overlay, frontage, right-of-way vacation, and the urban ag ordinance.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Okay, one more, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to jump in for a second. I love this beautiful world that you guys are painting, where as a dyed in the wool policy wonk, like all we have to do is like sit around and dream up and think about like legislative text amendments to the land development code. Unfortunately, maybe that's where I go when I die as a planner, but we are like, and I do want to recognize this from for staff who are listening too. We are both, of course, in a pandemic, as everyone knows, and we're obviously operating completely different, you know, for the past four going on 5 months in terms of just how the department is running. We're also conversely in like the most sort of intense building boom that we've had in recent memory. We pulled our permitting numbers from last month. So 1 month of permitting, we had 860 permits just for the previous month, which is a staggering number. So a lot of the department is, and this is stuff that you guys don't necessarily see as the plan board, but we are incredibly busy. In addition to like all the other kind of things that we're doing with the, you know, you probably saw the article in the paper about the outdoor seating for and some of the road closures. Like we're, you know, very much like in the mix of all of that. But That's not as a meant to be as a excuse necessarily, as much as it is just a recognition that all of the staff in the department are working incredibly hard right now, and I just want to recognize them that for their efforts. I think all the ideas are really great, and I'm 100%. One of the things that I heard is midnight meetings going forward for the plan board members. So I've got that written down. The second item was trying to slot part of each of your agendas to cover some of the commission items, which I think is a good idea. If the board, and we've talked about it a little bit before, if the board's interested, we could also do, some special meetings that would just be concentrated just on text amendments. If that would be something you guys would want to do, or we could put that on the table potentially. So there are a number of ways, but I do want to recognize the that we're hearing what you're putting out, and we just wanted to share our perspective as well. So we appreciate it.
Thank you,
Andrew,
Mr. Parsons. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for all you do.
Andrew, you could trim back the 3-hour champagne lunches.
That's true. I told Nate, who did a wonderful job tonight, and I did want to recognize him. I know he was a little bit nervous for his first presentation, but I told him, as long as you remain conscious, then you're already ahead of the game for presentation. So. But thank you all.
Good job, Nate.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I think we all recognize that staff probably has more on their plates than they should, especially considering the pandemic. But even if we're not going to solve all the problems right away, just updates periodically or more regularly would be nice. I think that basically boils down to where we are at the moment. And Mr. Chan, just from the board, you did a fantastic job tonight. You were organized, you were clear, you got through it quickly, which are all things that we love as a board. So thank you so much, and we look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also very grateful that I didn't pass out. So
yeah,
good to know. And I also would like
it's
to
a low
say
standard.
that I appreciate all of the feedback that you give, and I hope to learn more in the future.
Thank you. I have one more board member comment, and I promise that it's quick. I accidentally clicked on a city commission agenda this afternoon and was looking at it, and they have a really great section right after their title page where it's a meeting process outline, and it kind of goes over for a member of the public kind of what to expect and how the meeting is going to run. And it's just very basic information, but if somebody's not used to public hearings, it is a good primer. I know that there are rules about what we need to have in our agendas and what they're supposed to look like, but if we could look at maybe amending ours to include a meeting process outline, I think that would be a good thing that shouldn't be controversial and shouldn't be that hard to do. And that would just make us a little bit more accessible. I know we're trying the best we can to get people involved, and I think anything like that will help. I know before I joined the board, I wouldn't have known what to do or what to expect. And I just think that would be a good thing to look into. So
and really quickly, is that for, was that for virtual or just regular meetings?
I think it covered both.
Okay, because I did actually have that for the virtual meetings, but I took it out, so I can easily add that back.
I just think that the more clear we are in what our steps are and how the process operates, the easier it is for people to participate, and that's what we want. And we're all looking at everything virtually. We're not even going to be wasting paper with it at this point. If we could add something like that in, I think it would definitely help people moving forward. Mr. Newman?
Yeah, actually today with the public sort of calling in, I was just thinking to myself, yeah, wouldn't it be nice if there was either a PowerPoint or short kind of, and this is more work, right? But something that could either be on our webpage or something on the city webpage about, city plan board, what it is, like how you could, what decisions we are sort of making, and just kind of like a citizen's guide to trying to interact with the city plan board. And again, it just might be a nice thing if people who want to attend just have a little bit sort of better understanding of what we're doing, what we can and we cannot sort of have control over. It may not change what people sort of comment on or want to discuss, but it could, there may be some sort of benefit to making it, the citizens more empowered to interact with us. So I know that's asking a big thing, but that could be something that might be sort of nice in the long run.
Actually, I think our webpage does cover a lot of that.
I think it does, but I think when you actually go to a meeting, you don't necessarily know what the process is. And that's where my comments were going, like, asking for public comment and stating your name and just the simple stuff that we all take for granted having been on the board. Someone who it's their first meeting won't know what to expect. And I think just a little thing like that could give someone the confidence to speak up that they might not otherwise have.
Madam Chair, could you circulate that? Maybe send it to staff by email and they can send it back around to us. And,
Sure.
I support this idea, and maybe so that staff can stay focused on legislative land use items, we can ask the city clerk to add it to our automatic agenda material.
Yeah, I agree. All right, do we have any other comments from the board? Seeing none, our next meeting date, I believe it will be a virtual meeting, is September 24th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. And if there's nothing else, I will call this plan board meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Adios.
Thank you.